will certainly help them. I think that would be one of my biggest pieces of advice.
I can think about that too, as far as if you're a mortgage lender and you give an estimate that's way off, it's like, where's this number coming from? Like that would be my first reaction, and that could leave a sour taste in anybody's mouth.
If I were to add on that, Patrick, I would say also getting them to talk to us.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll get people to say, hey, they just want to quote, they're busy at work. I'm like, you just borrowed $450,000 for this house, and you don't want to talk about how you're going to insure it for the next 30 years while you pay it off?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Cincinnati Real Producers Podcast, powered by Next Door Photos. I'm Patrick Braddock, owner and publisher of Cincinnati Real Producers.
And I'm Daniel Ziegler, owner of Next Door Photos. Every week, we're getting to know Cincinnati's top realtors.
Our goal is to elevate and inspire the real estate community throughout greater Cincinnati.
Today we have Kevin Kyler and Wyatt Moore of Kyler Moore Insurance. They opened their doors in March of 2017. While others in the industry focus on price and quickness, Kevin and Wyatt are focused on education and value. In 2021, they were recognized as the Smart Choice Leadership Agency of the Year out of over 300 agencies in Ohio. Also in 2021, they finished in the top 25 in the country for Progressive Insurance. Welcome to the show, Kevin and Wyatt.
Hello. Awesome. Thanks for being here, guys. Appreciate it. So we're going to dive in. I'm going to just let everybody know in the audience that we're, Real Producers is here based on the partners that we have. So the partners that we have are people who want to be in front of the top producing agents in the markets that we're in. So our goal is to sit here and help promote those businesses. And we're doing that, kind of flipping the script and not just featuring real estate agents now on our podcast, but we're going to do it with our partners as well. So Kevin and Wyatt, appreciate you guys being on here today. I know that there's a huge value add for our partners as far as the real estate community is concerned. And I know sometimes education is key. So having you guys on seemed like a perfect caveat to talk about the educational side of insurance as well, but also get to know you guys a little bit too. I think that's important. People want to work with somebody they know, like, and trust, right? So let's get to know you, man. Like, what'd you guys do before you got into the insurance? I know you've been doing it for a while now, but what'd you guys do before? And whoever wants to go first is fine, but let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think I can start us off. First of all, I really appreciate you guys having us on. Honored to be here. But before insurance, me and Kevin go way back. We've been friends since we were little kids. We actually went to rival schools. My best friend growing up is his cousin. And so we got introduced at a young age, and we competed when we were younger. And then, we lived together at UC in a house for a while. And then shortly after we got out of school, I started working insurance. He started working a sales job. Once he got into insurance, he had a opportunity. I had came over there and worked with him at that job. We were selling life insurance to union members. And then we transitioned from there to State Farm, where we helped an individual open up an office together. And I think it was at that point that, since we had worked pretty much the full scope of insurance together, that we felt pretty comfortable, that we both knew what we were doing, that we both saw an opportunity that we could run something ourselves. And so at that point, in January of 2017, we decided we were going to leave State Farm and then open up and start from scratch Kyler Moore Insurance, which is what we've been doing since 2017.
That's so cool.
So how's that dynamic as far as the conversation about becoming business partners? Was it simple? Was it easy? Was it like, what are we thinking? Like, how did that conversation go?
It was pretty simple, really. I was interviewing everywhere I could, MetLife, Allstate, everywhere, Erie, and when I stumbled upon a route to be independent and get carriers and everything, and started really realizing State Farm was not where we wanted to be, I walked into Wyatt's office one day. I said, hey, I found something. We should do it together. And I want to get on a phone call with you and another guy, and took about 3 days, I think, to sell Wyatt on doing it, and never looked back.
And so that was definitely the start of that. But I think that one thing we should definitely touch on is that with that discussion also pretty much developed in those same 3 days of how we were going to come into the industry, how we were going to try to differentiate ourselves, and what kind of our plan of attack was. And from the very beginning, we had said that we're going to go be the premier choice for real estate professionals in the city of Cincinnati. So from the day that we were leaving State Farm and developing this company, our entire plan was how could we get in front of real estate professionals? We know that loan officers need insurance to close on a home. We know that real estate agents are selling houses every single day. How can we get these people to send us their clients? And so that's essentially the goal that we've had, and really the toughest thing that we've had to overcome in order to fulfill to where we've gotten. And so from that day forward, though, we've been trying to get in front of real estate professionals.
That's fantastic. I think it's a great business model, to be quite honest, because you could advertise to one consumer who may give you business, or one real estate agent who may give you the business of 80 consumers. So from that standpoint, I think it's genius. But so you both went to UC. What do you guys like to do outside of the industry? Just get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah.
Families, I assume, kids.
Yep.
Whereas my family's pretty new. Kev started his quite a while ago. Okay. And so I'll go ahead and talk about yours, man.
Yeah. So I have a 12-year-old and 8-year-old, married, obviously. Yeah. I was 23 when my oldest was born. Nice. And had a full-time sales job then. Luckily, I bought my house way back then. Got a way better rate, way better deal. Family life's great. My wife works for Sycamore Schools. Nice. And spare time, mostly baseball runs my life. I coach both of my boys' baseball teams. They're both pitchers. We don't do like 80 games a year traveling out of town or anything like that quite yet. But baseball is pretty much life for me outside of work with the kids.
That's awesome, man. That's really great. Yeah. What about you, Wyatt?
So I had just had my first child just shy of 2 years ago, and family life's been great. We moved out here actually right here in Mason 2 years ago as well, and so getting used to living in the suburbs and being a family man has been an enjoyable experience. It's great watching him grow, and then fingers crossed, hopefully we'll have a second one here not too long in the future. But yeah, outside of work, especially leading up before we did have a child, we went to a lot of sporting events, went to a lot of concerts. Me and my wife have a band that we both really enjoy, Humphreys McGee, and if they're within an hour and a half, 2 hours, we're driving to go see them. Met a lot of friends and met a lot of cool people that way. And that was a great experience. Tried to travel as much as we could prior to having a child, and but I think both of us can say we're pretty avid sports fans. Yeah. Huge into the Bengals, huge into the Bearcats, big into the Reds. Love taking the kids, mostly his, but it's been an enjoyable experience.
Sure. I say this as a jealous fan. I love the Reds. I'm not from Cincinnati, but I grew up in Cleveland. So having Terry Francona jump on the Reds, I thought was an awesome pickup. Like one of the best pickups they've had since Ellie. It's such a great manager, and I was so jealous that he decided to come out of retirement.
I think it's almost weird for us here in Cincinnati to all have a consensus that we're happy with a hire. I mean, UC just had a coaching hire, and at least half the people were upset about it. Yep. The last time, even David Bell's caught a lot of crap for a long time there. Yeah, and I feel like that Zach Taylor, sure, he had luckily he made us a Super Bowl run early, but he catches quite a bit of heat as well. And to see every single person I've talked to has pretty much said the same thing. I'm excited. I think we got the best available person at this time, which is not something we're used to hearing.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I'm sorry to segue on that conversation a little bit, but I was excited to hear it. So obviously you guys have built such a great reputation with the real estate community and title companies and home lenders and everything like that. Like, how are you guys going about providing the value to this community? Because it's obviously working.
Yeah, we've done a number of things and continue to try, and being reciprocal is probably the biggest one. Any way we can help them, God forbid, get them a lead, for them to sell a house, we try. But, also we've done home buying seminars, especially when we were starting out, trying to meet realtors and loan officers and title companies. basically just trying to be reciprocal, but also when they do need us, when they do have a client to refer, to be on top of it. To call that client as soon as we can, to call them back as soon as we can once we've sent the quote. And then also, really try to take care of them, not necessarily the cheapest policy, but what's going to protect their house the best for the best price. So, in a number of ways, but we try to really differentiate yourself. I can't talk. We try to be different by being reciprocal.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So I think reciprocal is a big thing. I think that throughout the years we've had to adapt.
Sure.
What worked in 2017 and 18 does not work now. And a lot of that has to do with, we started really big on the social media aspect of trying to generate our own leads. And we were doing things of that nature that allowed us to do things and to get in front of individuals to say, hey, we can provide you these leads. And so that was, our initial way. From there, that transitioned into, okay, now we've met some people. Let's throw these people some home buying seminars. Let's try to get clients in front of them. And then, from then all of a sudden we run into COVID. When all of a sudden we can't run these events, it's a lot harder to get in front of people. And so then at that point, you're kind of depending on your existing relationships to try to get you in front of others. Then it was a good with the bad. The good was that nobody was able to go out and network. Sure. And the bad was that nobody could go out and network. And so, an introduction where you're all of a sudden you're doing Zoom meetings instead of being in front of people, but at the same time, you're still building value. And like he said, I think that once someone actually comes calling is when you can kind of put on display what you're able to do. And what we've realized throughout the real estate industry is that deals can ride on a lot of different things. Debt to income can be super close. You can have people come in with these, massive insurance policies that are, they're $4,000 a year. All of a sudden now the numbers don't work for the loan officer. And so I think being able to be someone that consistently as a resource that any real estate professional can call at any time to say, hey, I have this problem, how can you help? And that our entire business is built around helping those professionals get to a solution. And so I think that being a solution to a lot of problems throughout that space is really what has helped us grow those relationships. Knowing that if they call us and they need something, knowing that they're going to get it is always a big deal in business.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
And I think too, even being able to be ahead of some of this stuff in terms of educating agents on, we were talking off camera about some changes that have happened recently in the industry, and you want to speak to a little bit of that maybe?
Yeah, absolutely.
We talk specifically about the roofing thing.
Yeah. The obvious one's inflation. Mm-hmm. Most people don't realize insurance is a product. Just like your milk, your gas, it has a price, it has a cost. That cost is going up now. The cost to rebuild your house costs more. The cost to repair your car, the rental car you rent, all these things cost more. Lawyers or liability costs are going up from lawsuits. Every car wreck almost got a lawsuit now. Yeah. So all these things drive up the cost. Weather hasn't helped. And when the companies, pay out more in claims than they take in premiums, there's only one thing they can do: raise everyone's rates. So a lot of things have been changing. It's been probably the worst market for insurance in history. If this was real estate, it'd be 2008 or 9 for us. And basically that means insurance companies are restricting what they sell. They might even be going out of business. It's pretty serious stuff. And so costs are rising. And that's why we try to really be there for the mortgage people and, realtors to shop around, and give them as many options as we can.
And it's just become far more difficult in this sense, and especially for the stuff where, you have a house that was built in the 1800s, you have a slate roof. The house, even though it's not your claims, has had multiple water claims inside the house with previous owners. Stuff like this that's really completely outside of your control, all of a sudden is leading to an issue that at any other given time in modern history would have not been an issue at all. Mm-hmm. And so I think just being transparent is the biggest part. And then also letting them know that time matters now, whereas before a lot of times we could have a solution in a couple hours. Well, they're not, when companies aren't hungry for that business, they move a lot slower. They don't have the incentive to get things done quickly. So I think being transparent and allowing them to know how our industry is shifting so that way that they can more easily work with us is probably one of the biggest things.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just amazing because it's awesome to hear you guys wanted to educate, and then before we even start this podcast, I'm getting educated on things I don't know about insurance. So, from a value standpoint, I'll be frank that I didn't recognize how important insurance is as far as a value to just everyone in general, the common man or woman. But from here, like what are the goals for Kyler Moore Insurance moving forward? I know if this is your 08, 09, sometimes people might say, let's keep our head above water. Let's do this. But like, it's obvious you guys provide value, that's clear and cut. What if you had to give a message to anyone right now, what would that kind of be, and how would that look as far as how can you move your business forward and provide that value to whoever? I
think that as far as how we see the business going is we're going to double down on what we're doing.
Yeah.
We still think that going out and building relationships, and even if doing business is more difficult than it was before, that's just another obstacle. Everybody in business is going to consistently face obstacles that they're going to have to adapt to. And so I think that really just doubling down on the relationships, get out and meet more people, never stop meeting people, opportunities like this where we get in front of a target audience that, is huge for us.
Yeah.
And so I think just continuously sticking to our strategy. The game plan has worked. We're just up against a tougher defense now, to use that analogy. And so I think that as long as we continue to work our game plan, that we have the vision of doing this for years to come. We hope that we can continue to be a key piece into the real estate industry in Cincinnati for we're still in our mid-30s. We hopefully have a long way to go.
Yeah, God willing. That's awesome. I appreciate that. It was kind of a hard question. I think it kind of ties into advice too. Do you want to roll into that?
Yeah, let's do it. So we'd love to ask for some advice that you might offer to consumers or to real estate agents as they're kind of guiding their clients through transactions and things. Before we do, though, we always love to give Back to Back Ministries a quick shout out. This is their studio. They let us use it. Back to Back Ministries is a global nonprofit orphan care organization with their sights set on providing care for today and hope for every tomorrow. From Cincinnati, Ohio to Hyderabad, India, staff teams around the world are stepping into hard stories and choosing to stay. To learn more about the work Back to Back does, how you can get involved, and why a global team won't stop until every child is known and loved, you can visit backtoback.org today.
Yeah, it's great. Great organization. We appreciate them having us, and especially for people who have kids, it's like, man, I can't imagine somebody not having a parent, or having that love. But so yeah, based on that, and I was, as he was talking, I was kind of thinking, what kind of advice do you guys have, and maybe not just to real estate agents, but like, do you guys have advice for like a mortgage lender right now? Like, I think obviously that's a big target for you guys. You talked about that earlier, but like, I think this could be a really important part is what kind of advice would you guys give to a lender right now who's probably also seeing some tough times as far as the market is concerned, as from the insurance aspect?
Yeah, I think one of my key pieces of advice to lenders would be, you're typically providing an estimate for the insurance expense to the individual alongside the numbers, and you're running those numbers based upon that. I think that from the time I entered the industry in 2012, really all the way up until 2021, you could almost use those same estimates during that period of time.
Wow.
Where they really didn't change much. Whereas all of a sudden, now you're seeing, almost every single renewal, you're seeing 20 and 30% increases until people have almost doubled the price of their insurance over the last 2 years.
Oh my God.
And so I think the biggest piece of that is getting used to changing that expectation. If you're putting $850 a year for a homeowner's policy, that's not realistic anymore, even though it was realistic for 10 years straight.
Yeah.
And so I think being able to look at the material of the home, the age of the home, and basically the circumstance of the individual, I would strongly suggest start trying to make a little bit larger estimates, because I think that it also hurts the individual if they put a low number and then all of a sudden that person goes out to the market and isn't getting anywhere near it. Yeah. All of a sudden now their mortgage payment is more than it is, and it makes you, I think, look bad even though it shouldn't.
Yeah.
And so I think that just putting together a better estimate and getting used to what the market is providing will certainly help them. I think that would be one of my biggest pieces of advice.
Yeah, that's really great. Because I mean, I can think about that too, as far as if you're a mortgage lender and you give an estimate that's way off, it's like, where's this number coming from? You know, like that would be my first reaction, and that could leave a sour taste in anybody's mouth.
And for sure. If I were to add on that, Patrick, I would say also getting them to talk to us.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll get people to say, hey, they just want to quote, they're busy at work. I'm like, you just borrowed $450,000 for this house, and you don't want to talk about how you're going to insure it for the next 30 years while you pay it off?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, let's have a conversation.
And so, when people actually sit down and talk to us, they go, oh, so that's how that works.
Yeah.
Those people have the best experience with insurance. The people that go online and get upset and leave bad reviews about companies typically have never talked to anyone. They don't know what they're doing. And when you borrow all that money, you better know how it's covered.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's a really, really good point.
That's a great point.
And I think that the home buying process kind of is such a stressful and transitional process where, hey, you went from, hey, let's buy a house, to all of a sudden I'm meeting a realtor, I'm meeting a loan officer, I'm scheduling an inspection. It's like now they're telling me I have to go get this insurance policy, and it's like you just want to check all these boxes in order to get this experience done, which is totally understandable as a consumer. However, you are protecting the biggest asset you've ever purchased.
Sure.
So I think that just getting people to slow down, I think pretty much exactly what you said, Kev, is but getting people to slow down in that process and actually evaluate how you're protecting that asset goes so far, because an informed individual that just spent however much money on the home is not going to say, no, I don't want water sewer backup if they know it's the most common interior claim. All of a sudden, that $80 a year doesn't seem that expensive when they know that water backing up into their house is going to be covered. Yeah. And so I think that just informing the individuals and making sure they slow down during that part of the process is huge.
That's great, man.
Absolutely. Well, it goes back to your whole idea of like providing value, not just the lowest possible price. It's like you want to make sure these people are going to be covered, and I think that's huge.
No doubt.
Yeah. Especially, that's perfect. So I love that as far as connecting with mortgage lenders and being able to provide that value and that advice. Do you guys have anything that you would? I mean, I kind of lump. I mean, real estate agents. We could talk about real estate agents. Let's talk about them. Like, what advice would you give a real estate agent that you're partnered with as far as best practices for them in conversation with a client?
I think that the biggest thing would be the identification of issues. That, like, for example, asbestos siding, that's going to be far more difficult than any other type of siding to get covered. A flat roof, a roof that's old, a house built and when the Civil War was going on. All of these things are now very difficult to cover. If the entire house's electrical supply is knob and tube wiring, these are all things that will make it incredibly difficult to have a home insured. I think that if that individual knows that up front, and therefore they are prepared for that experience, is going to bode far better than all of a sudden they've talked to 4 people unexpectedly and now they're telling them there's no way they can get insurance. So I think transparency and being able to set the expectation of the experience from the house you're selling will improve the way that you flow your business.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. I was going to say, any advice to realtors, I would say, especially with your buyers, their job is to get you in the house. Ours is to protect it while you're in it for however many years, right? So like I was saying before, understanding what your risks are, we just had a big hurricane come through. Most people don't understand that homeowners insurance doesn't cover flood. It's not covered. If it hits the ground first and goes into your house, they're not going to cover it. That's not just Allstate or any type of company. It's all of them. So really understanding with getting with their buyers to help them better understand what they're getting into. And a lot of that is just getting them to talk to us.
Yeah. That seems like a really great partnership. I mean, as far as why would anybody not want to build a relationship with somebody like yourselves, knowing that they can lean on a professional to give that advice and not be like a secondhand informant, like
we ask ourselves that every day.
If
Patrick.
I was a real estate agent, I was like, why would I just refer Daniel over to you guys and let you have the conversation so that they know, A, it's coming from a professional who does it every day, and B, I'm not speaking out of my so man, that's profound. I love that. So, but yeah, you have anything else, Daniel?
I feel like we've covered it, but is there anything else you guys want to talk about?
Yeah.
Not off the top of my head. Really appreciate you guys having us
Yeah,
here.
really appreciate you guys having us. Obviously happy to meet new people and love an opportunity to buy somebody a cup of coffee and go into further explanation of where we can provide value.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We appreciate you guys. And I love the fact that we're able to kick this off, because when I started this, you don't know much about what you don't really dig yourself into, right? And I've never been huge into insurance, but just this conversation alone has opened my eyes to so much. So A, I appreciate you guys being partners with us, but B, I appreciate the insight that you have and the reputation you have with the real estate community, and being our partners, and hopefully we can help you guys and make some more introductions as well. So, but yeah. So with that, thanks for being on the podcast, man. Thank you both, and we'll catch you guys later.
Sounds good.
See ya.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Cincinnati Real Producers Podcast, powered by Nextdoor Photos. We do this every week, so be sure to subscribe so you can follow along. If you liked our conversation, leave us a review. We'd love to hear your thoughts.